Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti. We have traversed a long path. We have started in the first chapter about unfounded beliefs, ungrounded notions, just simply irrational ideas. From there, we moved on to figuring out which of these ideas are irrational. Now, it's very difficult for us, right, in our head to know this is a rational idea, this is not a rational idea. So we worked our way from those irrational ideas with the help of the four pramanas to find how to know whether the thought I'm thinking is correct or false. We saw the influence of experience and virtue also on these thoughts. Then we saw how nature actually has the greatest play in our thoughts. Because we think in a particular manner simply because that's our nature. It's almost uncontrollable. And then we discussed how the different types of natures will give us different types of thoughts. Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, each one has his own way of thinking because that's his particular nature. Now, what do we do about it? How do we change it? We change it by undertaking knowledge. But is it enough to hear knowledge? No. Knowledge changes us only if we
reflect.
Think about it.
Only if we reflect upon that knowledge. Otherwise, it is not capable of changing us. The more you think about it, the more it digests in the system, and then you become it. Now, for argument's sake, let us say that you have reached right knowledge. You have purified your personality. You are able to see everything for what it is. You have become a highly sattvic individual. Then what? Do you now know the full truth? Vedanta argues, no. Even the most pure person, the most sattvic person, the most poised person cannot know the truth. Because the truth can only be known in thoughtlessness. Only when you achieve that does the ultimate truth stand revealed. So, starting from irrational thoughts, making our way to rationality, understanding the various influences of that thought, correcting the thought, the end result is that thought must vanish. Now we are going to study about that from this chapter. It's the smallest chapter in the book, obviously, because there's no thought, what words are you going to say? But let us try and make some sense of this. This is the peak of Vedanta. Thoughtlessness. I think therefore I am not.
Sorry, Janki ji.
Yeah, good.
Can I ask some questions relating to the last class?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, before we move into the big one, the final ultimate one. Yeah. Janki ji, we have looked at meditation as the third stage of knowledge. But this was relevant in the context and has been dealt with in your book also with respect to absolute knowledge. That it is the penultimate state, single-minded thought, and then gateway to self through single-pointed meditation. I was wondering if the same third stage is also relevant in a different shape or form in normal transactional knowledge per se. So after reflection, is there something, let's say, equivalent to meditation in a thought which is not leading to absolute knowledge? So that's my question.
Yes, all sorts of epiphany, all quietude. In terms of work, it is when you're in the flow. In terms of understanding, it is in terms of epiphany. In terms of what should I say, intuitive knowledge, it's all quiet and it is clear. So yes, it is applicable in relative knowledge as well, just as everything else. And it comes out of absolute, complete digestion of the idea that you no longer need thoughts for it. In quietude, it's all clear. In fact, some people call it awareness. And they think that that is pure awareness. It's not pure awareness, it's still awareness here only. So yes, there is that where you just look at something and it's all clear to you.
Okay. Okay, fine. The second question was to do with the one that, we discussed at length, which is the yardstick of all knowledge is that actions come from an understanding and not a craving. And, your starting point was to say that all action is coming from our understanding, right? And then you are making a distinction between understanding and craving here. Now, the point really was that the understanding can be any understanding because that's our understanding leads to our action, right? That understanding can be valid or invalid, grounded or groundless. And it can be intellect driven or mind driven.
Understanding.
Our understanding.
Understanding is always intellect only. Why mind driven? Understanding, the word is always of the intellect.
No, but we also then said that the first statement was, it may be an invalid understanding, yeah, but it's still our understanding by which we act, and that action may be wrong action. Now, that understanding could have come about because it is intellect driven, or it is, it's my understanding, but it's kind of been instilled in me because of my mind. So it can be mind driven also, no?
The word understanding always is intellect. If you're using the word understanding, that has to be intellect.
Okay, then if we go back to your first sentence, opening sentence, that all actions have to emanate from our understanding. Now, this presupposes that since you've used the word understanding, everything that we are, dealing with, which is driving our action, is intellect driven. But we know that a lot of it, in fact, most of it is mind driven. So how do we now reconcile these two sentences?
Okay, let's go through the concept again, conceptually.
Yeah.
I understand something, X. Whatever I have understood, okay? To have understood something means that to that extent, my mind has changed.
Yeah.
Okay, that means I've understood it. That means it will now drive my actions. Right? So, in a sense, it is always understanding that drives our actions. right? Now, all understanding doesn't have to be correct understanding.
Yes.
Every understanding is an incorrect understanding from a higher perspective.
Yeah.
Right? So I've understood so much. That means my mind has come up to so much. That means now my behavior will be like this. Right? Now that my mind has understood something that the intellect has conquered, let us say, rightly or wrongly, now this mind, in the realm of this understanding, can take over. In the realm of this understanding. Okay, I have understood that money is a very important thing of life. Rightly or wrongly, I have understood this, that money is critical to my existence. I've understood this. This is what I believe. From that, now my mind can take over. Because now my mind also believes this understanding. Now it can take over. It can crave for money. It can have greed for money. It can be stupid with reference to money. Or alternatively, if I'm intellect driven in that area, and my intellect carries on with it, then I will be discriminate in my dealings with money. I will not allow it to become craving or greed or just whatever else it is. Right? So at any level of understanding, I can be driven by the mind or the intellect. I have understood that the self is the most critical thing in this world. This I've understood. That means now my mind has come to that level. It has digested that idea. Okay?
Yeah.
Again, it can crave the self, have greed for the self, get that lost in the self, same thing. So at every level of understanding, the intellect can drive action, or mind can drive action, or both can drive action. You're muted.
Yeah. So you've now explained that these are two independent phenomena taking place. One is that your intellect is leading to an understanding and your mind is drawing level to it, which is then your understanding from which you it may be right understanding or wrong understanding. So mind has drawn level, which is why there is action that is resulting. Now, within that level of understanding, mind and intellect again can independently play. So at one level, they have to come in alignment for saying this is my understanding, because only when your mind is aligned can you say that this is my understanding, which is going to be equal to my behavior. Yeah. And then within that, again, the mind and intellect can have their independent game playing of which dominates which.
Yes. So you can see it as a band. If I'm a physical person, very physical driven, I can do this through my mind, or I can do this through my intellect. If I'm an emotional person, okay, I want to look after my family is my everything, I can again do this through my mind, or I can do this through my intellect. So in the band that you exist, you can use either the mind or intellect.
But to come to that band, mind and intellect have to be in sync.
Yes. So when you gain knowledge, what happens is the intellect goes into something unknown. This mind is not used to it. So the mind will keep resisting. Okay. And then the intellect keeps at it. And, somehow the mind, it pulls the mind up to itself, and all this struggle and all this thing is going on. Mind is saying no, intellect is saying no, you got to do this, you got to do this. And if the intellect wins, then the mind comes up here. These are normal examples, right? You wanted to start going for a walk, for instance. The day you thought I should go for a walk, did you go for a walk? Never happens. You think and think and think. The mind is resisting. नहीं, कल से शुरू होगा, कल से करेंगे. All this goes on and on and on until eventually you get, mind comes up. You know, even when you're going for a walk, the mind can be resistant, right? Because intellect is powerfully pushing something. Finally, the mind gets used to it. Now the mind will start craving the walk. So even if you've got 104 temperature, mind will say, no, I feel like going for a walk. Right? So it's come up to that level. Now intellect has to find something higher. And again, start that same struggle, the same nonsense. Again, it'll go on. Mind will say, no, no, no. Intellect will say, yes, you have to, you have to. These two guys will be fighting. Finally, eventually, mind will come up. And that's what we experience in life, isn't it?
So that's fine. But this is one set of situations, like, the walk example, eating the chocolate, not eating the chocolate, not eating the chocolate. The mind will also say, okay, I think I have this problem and, it's got ramification, whatever. But there are so many of our decisions which are purely mind-led. I mean, say, poor intellect is left in the keyboard, exist nahi karta hai. I mean, just khana hai, bas khana hai. So where does that understanding come in? I mean, say that's an understanding which has been driven really by the mind, isn't it? To say that it's good for me. I mean, I can afford to have it, which is why I'm having it.
No, no, no. It is always intellect. There was a time, let us say, I love chocolates today.
Yeah.
But there was a time I did not love chocolates. So I have been educated into eating chocolates, and I would have had it the first time. I don't like it. And then slowly, slowly, the mind starts getting used to it, and then it forms a craving, and then it will do it. So at every level, same thing happens.
That the intellect has led the way somehow, and the mind has kind of caught up per se. Okay, fine. Thank you. Mahesh has put a comment saying, isn't this discussion Vedanta 101? I'm not too sure what that is supposed to mean.
It means we're going back to the basics. But Mahesh, that is all of Vedanta. It's only going backwards. We never go forwards. Going back and going back is all we do over here. The thing is, there is no forwards. It's always just revising the basics till it's clearer and clearer and clearer. So it's amazing. I mean, because Deepak Sethi has been studying this subject for 20 years, over 20 years.
Yeah.
And it just occurs to us, how is this mechanism even working at all? And you just understand that same thing. The person who comes to class first day listens, follow the intellect, don't follow the mind. And after 25 years also, same thing. Follow the intellect, don't follow the mind. But there's a whole world of difference. In karate, they show this very beautifully. You know that when you start karate, they give you a white belt. Then you start, then becomes brown, yellow, and then it becomes brown, and then becomes black. And then again it becomes white, because that black is also worn off and become white now. So knowledge is really going back, always going back to, say, the white belt. Now you keep doing, it becomes yellow, then it becomes brown, then it becomes really black, and then you keep doing, it becomes so good, it becomes white again. It's an amazing thing. But keep looking. Bharat, intellect can have limited understanding. Intellect always has limited understanding. Every understanding you have is limited. Mind and intellect are husband and wife. Yes, mind is husband, intellect is wife. Correct, no?
Perfect.
Okay.
No, I put it the wrong way. I'm sorry. My mind played up.
Okay. Yes, very often in a couple it is that way, that one is intellect and one is mind. If they both come to Vedanta class, there's a fight on who is intellect and who is mind. So better that only one of them comes to class. Okay, so shall we go back to thoughtlessness? Going from black to white again. Thoughtlessness. I think, therefore I am not. You know, a great statement is, I think, therefore I am. I am. That is Descartes, right? I think, therefore I am. How do you know you exist? Well, since you think, therefore you exist. But Vedanta has a different spin on this. This is a Western thing. Since you think, therefore you know you exist. Vedanta says, you think, therefore you, meaning the self, doesn't exist for you. Kabir has put it different. He said, जब मैं था तो गुरु नहीं, अब गुरु सो मैं नहीं, प्रेम गली अति साकली, जामे दो ना समाए. When I was, the guru wasn't. Now the guru is, and I am not. Prem gali ati sakli. The lane of love is very narrow, where two cannot fit. Jame do na saman. Two cannot fit in that lane. It is so thin. In other words, when the knowledge is there, the ego is gone. When the ego is there, the knowledge is gone. So there can be only one of two. Either the limited personality exists, in which case there is ignorance, or the limited personality does not exist, in which case there is knowledge. Beautiful, no? To follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought, says Alfred Lord Tennyson in Ulysses. See, as the globe turns, you know, the sinking star. So when the globe turns, that you see the star sinking. You're seeing it going down. Now suppose you follow that star, where will you go? Suppose you go on following the star, you go through the earth and you are following the star. Where is it? There is no sinking star, right? It will always be there if you go. Beyond the utmost bound of human thought. What is the utmost bound of human thought? Thought. Beyond thought. So, where will you find the truth? Beyond thought. So, T.S. Eliot, who always puts it in a different way, says, men dislike being awakened from their death in life. It is a tragic but true situation that most of us live a sort of living death. We are not alive. We cannot be alive as long as we are not dedicated to something way greater than ourselves. And this living death is not recognized. When someone comes to us and says, come, let me show you a better world, we do not like being awakened. We say, oh, forget it. I'd rather go to a party. I'd rather have a chocolate. I'd rather be with my family. That's it. We can't see anything more than that. And we dislike being told of anything higher than that. Men dislike being awakened from their death in life. It's a sad thing, no? Oh, it is what it is. Amani bhava. Amani bhava is how it is described in the scriptures. Thoughtlessness. Man, mind, thought. Man, not mind, means no thought. Bhava. Going beyond the intellect. So this whole book was about how to develop the intellect. Having developed it, now what do? We go beyond it. It's hard, but we have to tell her. Even sapphires don't glow blue without some kind of help. Janet McNally, Maggie says there's no such thing as winter. Don't you love all these quotes? It's hard, but we have to tell her. Even sapphires don't glow blue without some kind of help. Isn't it? Every experience has to have us there. Without us, that's a meaningless experience. So, in the final truth, neither the seer nor the seen play any role in the final truth. Let us study further. I know all of this is all pretty too much kind of stuff, but let's go through with it. Most of it is not comprehensible. Let me warn you right in the beginning. Most of it is not comprehensible. But this is the final truth as told to us by the seers and the sages. So let us just hear what they have to say. Don't try to understand it, just hear it. Know that this is the final point. We have nothing much to do with it because we have to still develop our intellect. We still have to go through that whole process. But just hear it so you know where this is actually supposed to lead. You may say, why? If it's got nothing to do with me, why do I need to do it? Why do I need to even know what it's about? Forget it now. Why do you have this in the book? The book is saying develop intellect. And okay, so we'll study how to do that and we'll do that. Now, why do we need to know this? Do you know the answer to that? Why talk about such a high thing when none of us are anywhere close to it? Why bother with it? Why learn about it? Why listen to it? Why waste our time?
So we know that it's there. It's possible. We can.
So
Therefore, we have higher to go. Like we have more to seek.
very good. Because most of us come to some level and become extremely content with where we are. It is one of the biggest dangers of Vedanta. That you come somewhere and then you experience so much more happiness, so much more efficiency, so much more everything than you used to have, that you think, oh, this is fantastic. And stop. So throughout the journey, they remind you, very good, Malti. So they remind you and never let you forget that there's a long way to go. There is a long way. Don't settle down. Things will get very much better as you study Vedanta. Things will become fantastic. You will think everything is so good. And you will give up the one thing that matters. So know that we have a long way to go. At every step, there is yet another step. Know this as you walk. Otherwise, every time you feel comfortable, you settle down. Then what happens? Then something comes and gives you one back. Then again you wake up. And again you start going. And every time something whacks us, we are not happy at all because something has just awakened us from the death in life. Remember that if you undertake death in life, nature, who is your mother, will come and whack you. You will blame some object, some being, something. It is only nature whacking you because you have settled down. And it will keep poking you until you wake up and you start walking again. Then if you start walking, yes, never settle, yes. And then again, everything will become so smooth and clear and nice. And then what happens? Again, you sit down. Again, nature will let you sit down for a little time. It lets you take a little breather and expects you to get up after some time, and you don't. Again, it will come and poke you. Now, the problem in this is that the better the human being you become, unfortunately, the periods of pleasure increase. Very frightening this is. So the closer you get to realization, the longer it will take for nature to poke you. Very sad, no? This is. So that means you can be settled in that place for maybe 1,000 janmas. You're just settled. You think it's so good. And everybody will say you're so good. And you will also think you're so good. And you'll be so happy. And everything you touch will turn to gold. Happily you're going along. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. And how will you keep walking? When you remember that there is a goal that we are pursuing. So remember that right now. Just keep walking. Keep walking means don't now go out for a walk. Say, okay, then I'll go for a walk. Means do your morning study. Do your karma yoga. Do your bhakti yoga. Attend to all the problem areas of your life. Don't say, oh, I've got such bad finances. Well, then attend to them. No, what are you such bad finances? Oh, my marriage is so bad. Then attend to it. Make it good. Attend to all the problems. Do your karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. And no matter what happens, the problems will one day be gone. But don't let the karma, bhakti, jnana fall off. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And be careful when you're doing jnana. Don't keep listening. What are you supposed to do?
Reflecting.
Otherwise, very easy to go on listening. And one speaker becomes boring, then you go to another speaker so that a little interest will come back again, because each speaker will have their own way of doing things. No, I will stick with one teacher. I don't care how boring this gets. I'm going to stick with one teacher. Or in this case, many of you have two teachers, in which case you stick with two teachers. Whatever you have decided. I'm not giving you a number, but whatever you have decided, stick with it. They will bore you to death. Never mind. Stick with it. Because your boredom only means that
you're not reflecting enough.
Very good. You're not reflecting. These words have not taken more and more meaning for you. So don't change your teacher. Change the way you're studying. The easiest is to change the teacher. All right? Do your bhakti. Bhakti means don't get lost in all bhajans alone. Make sure that there is no negative emotion for anybody in your mind. No negative emotion, no matter what they do. And karma means every single time you have performed any action, it was only with the intention of service. There's no action. You become incapable of doing an action which is not of service. So do that. Do that for as long as it takes to reach the self. It's not going to be a short journey, and please, for heaven's sake, don't settle down. Don't settle down. Challenges will start disappearing from your life. You may take on any project. Your projects will work. Do not fall for it. Continue on the journey. All right? Okay. So let's read further. So why we are studying this, why we are studying about thoughtlessness, which is at the moment irrelevant to us, is because we do not stop until we actually reach this point. In chapter 8, we understood that our nature determines how we perceive things, how we think. Remember that, right? Those who don't know it and have joined us. Has anyone joined us first time today and don't know what I'm talking about? Anybody new? All look like old names, right? Yeah. Kalpina Raja, are you new? Is anybody else?
Yes, I'm new.
Okay, so first day, Kalpina.
Yes.
Okay, so are you okay so far? You have any questions? It's all clear?
Yeah, I'm understanding. I am listening to what others have also commented.
Okay.
And
good.
what others have also asked.
Okay, good. If you have any question, feel free to ask.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
Come, Mahesh. In chapter 8, we understood that our nature determines how we perceive things, how we think. In chapter 9, we saw that knowledge means changing this perception, changing our thoughts, right? Our nature determines how we think. So if you have to think differently, that means your nature has to think, has to change, right? So knowledge actually means that your nature has changed. Gaining higher or subtler thoughts. Changing our thoughts means what? Gaining higher or subtler thoughts. When we change our thoughts, our nature is modified and we see things differently. And that is the knowledge we have newly gained. In this manner, we can keep improving our thoughts till they closely approximate reality and we see things as they really are. As thoughts subtleize, their quality improves and their quantity diminishes. This you studied, remember? As thoughts become subtler, they become fewer. At one stage, they are the subtlest possible. Remember that pyramid we drew? Grosser thoughts, lots of them. Then as they become subtler, it becomes like a pyramid. Lesser and lesser and lesser. Okay, now you've come to the subtlest. Now what? At one stage, they are the subtlest possible. Thoughts come to one and then nothing. Right? So you come to the subtlest thought. What is the subtlest thought? Remember, it was the need for enlightenment. So come to one thought. Then what? Then nothing. What would that state be? Vedanta says that is the state of the ultimate reality. We finally know what is really there. Remember, we had thoughts. Why do we have thoughts? We have thoughts in the first place to understand what is there. Right? That's why you have a thought, to know what is there. Now the problem is, eventually you find out that the thought itself is preventing you from knowing what is there. So when you remove that last thought, then you know is in inverted commas because knowing means a thought, so it's not really knowing. Then you finally get what is really there. What is really there is only the self. That which enlightened sages have purportedly seen. This is what the enlightened tell us. The summum bonum of human existence is not just the development of the intellect. Sounds so silly, no? The whole book is develop the intellect. Come to the last chapter and says it is not development of the intellect. Then why did you send us on that whole journey? It sounds almost irritating. First, you make us work on developing the intellect. And then as soon as you develop it, they say, no, this is no good. The summum bonum of human existence is not just the development of the intellect. It is transcending the intellect too. It is delving into and answering the question, is there a reality beyond it all? Can epistemology unfold ontology? Ontology is the study, epistemology is the study of knowing. How do you know what you know? And ontology is the study of the reality, what is actually there. We will investigate this startling concept in this chapter. Can you please give an example for subtler and subtlest? Okay, so what is gross? Gross is like I want to kill somebody, I want to take all his money away, stuff like that. Okay, that's very gross, no? So when you become subtler than that, then you say, no, why should I take somebody else's money? Let me earn my own money. So I become better. Then after I start earning my own money and I have earned sufficiently, I start thinking, okay, now I have so much money. Why don't I share it with my people? So now I become even subtler. So like this, as the unselfishness grows, the thoughts become subtler. So first I want to share only with my family. Then I want to share with my community. Then maybe with my nation. Then maybe I want to do something for humanity. It's all getting subtler and subtler. Right? So the subtlest thought is the desire for enlightenment. Okay? Let's continue. So we will investigate the startling concept in this chapter. Humankind cannot bear very much reality. T.S. Eliot. People don't like too much reality. Little reality they want. I don't know how that's possible, but that's what everybody wants. Why the intellect cannot have absolute knowledge. The mind is emotions, whims and fancies, likes and dislikes, the condition. The intellect is discrimination, reason, judging, deciding. The mind is grosser than the intellect. It only traverses known areas. It has no ability to step out of itself and look at things differently. Its role in knowledge is subsidiary. It impedes it or supports it. You remember, this is all really just a revision so that you're with it. Remember, what is mind's role in getting knowledge? It has two roles. Either it can impede it. When it's agitated, it impedes knowledge. And when it's calm, it supports it. It impedes because of its agitations and it supports because of its peace. The more virtuous the mind, the more peaceful one is. So how does the mind get peace? Out of virtue. The range of the intellect is vaster than the mind. The intellect traverses the realm of the unknown. The mind can only go into the known, remember? It can only go where it is comfortable. That means whatever field it has conquered, it is very happy over there. But the intellect goes into the unknown, something that it doesn't already know. Discoveries, inventions are in the realm of the intellect. It goes beyond itself and its opinions. It gains knowledge. That little tent of blue that prisoners call the sky. Oscar Wilde, The Ballad of Lady in Jail. Oscar Wilde, as you know, was in jail and he wrote The Profundus, a very famous poem, where he has this line, that little tent of blue that prisoners call the sky. It's a very wistful line. It's wistful because as a prisoner, okay, you don't get wonderful French windows, right? To look at the sky, you see, you have a very small bit. So similarly, we are prisoners. Our notion of the reality is very little. We look at a very small portion and we call that the sky because everything else is close to our vision. So, even though they're talking about themselves, these great writers, they manage to talk of eternal truths. It's such a beautiful thing, this wistful, what should I say, the wistful plea to be able to see more of the abundance of the facts of life. Okay, so this is just a subtext. What is our flow? That the mind goes into the known, the intellect strives to go into the unknown. It has the capacity to go into the unknown. But the intellect is not all powerful. The intellect is a finite entity. The goal, however, is absolute knowledge. The knowledge of everything. When you go out in search of knowledge, you want it all, right? You don't want only a small bit, the whole thing. If you have to get the whole thing, then what? It's the holy grail of scientists and philosophers alike. Scientists also have this notion, right? They also want to know what is the whole thing. So they also reduce it down to some principles. philosophers also do exactly the same. But neither the scientists nor the philosophers have still found what is that full knowledge. Absolute knowledge is infinite. The intellect can never give absolute knowledge. That is why neither the scientists nor the philosophers have still found it. All we know is necessarily limited. Now, here's where Vedanta comes. The philosophers and the scientists want full knowledge. That both sets of thinkers want. Both sets think they will find it. What Vedanta says is, you cannot find it. It is not that you will one day know it. When you study physics, when you study astrophysics, you learn about quantum physics, you learn all these things, subatomic particles, you feel, oh my God, now I'll get it. I'll understand about the wormhole. I will understand about the bosons, and I'll understand this, I'll understand that, and eventually we'll get it. What Vedanta says is, the intellect can never gain absolute knowledge. All that we know is necessarily limited. Thought as a vehicle for knowledge is necessarily incomplete. It can't be done. That's what Vedanta says. Thought by definition is finite. It cannot hold the infinite. The subtler the thought, the more knowledge it encompasses. Consider the idea: an apple falls to the ground. This encompasses a certain amount of knowledge. Mass attracts, encompasses more knowledge. E is equal to mc square encompasses more. You're seeing the difference, right? Apple falls. Then you understand gravitational influences. Then you understand E is equal to mc squared. Each of these is telling you more and more stuff. But even the highest doesn't tell you anything. Is there any thought that can encompass it all? Can we ever have a theory of everything? Because this is what the physicists are all trying to do, create a theory of everything. Can we ever have it? Is it possible? Thinking of the key, each confirms a prison. T.S. Eliot. The fact that we're thinking of a key confirms that you're in a prison. In fact, thought prevents knowledge. Vedanta claims that if we wish to know everything, the absolute reality, we will need to go beyond thought itself. When thought itself is consumed, what remains is the ultimate truth. True knowledge lies in thoughtlessness. Okay, let's take a pause here while you all can just quietly go through this for yourself. You can just go through this and think whether you're getting some hint of what is going on. Just keeping quiet for a little while. Yes, Jaya, that is correct. There are more knowledgeable people, but intellectuals are, those with an intellect are few. Are you all okay with this? Can we proceed? You'll have had a chance to just think about it quietly for a minute.
Ma'am, I have a question. Here the line says, in fact, thought prevents knowledge. Here, thought means a desire.
No, just a thought, any thought. So when it comes to absolute knowledge, even if you have the desire for absolute knowledge, you will not have it. Nothing. You have to be absolutely thoughtless. Not just on the surface thoughtless, like you push the thoughts down, but truly thoughtless. So absolute knowledge has to be in thoughtlessness. Because as long as there is the individuality, there is a filter. And as long as there's a filter, you cannot see it for what it is.
I think about it.
Can you?
Yeah, looks like Janki ji is not there in the meeting. I suppose she'll join.
Can you all see now? Are you all there?
Yes, we can see and hear you.
Great. All just suddenly disappeared. Okay. Mamita, we want to know, but we can never know the way we understand knowledge. We want to know, but we can never know the way we understand knowledge. We can never know the way we understand knowledge. Okay. When we do know, we cannot communicate. Yes, that's correct. It is not knowledge in the way we understand, because the only knowledge we understand is a knower-known relationship. But true knowledge, absolute knowledge, there's no knower-known relationship. So it is not the way we understand knowledge. And of course, we cannot communicate it.
Just out of curiosity, do people like the poets like T.S. Eliot, from the way they are making these observations, like the key and all, what does that mean? Do they understand it? I mean,
Everybody, every one of us, because we're human beings, we get glimpses into it. Now, it's almost as if the moss opens up once in a while and you can see the water below, and in that water you see the reflection. But if it is not out of sadhana, then that closes up again. So every now and then we get these flashes, and the poets seem to get many more of them. Okay, and of course they are usually more developed people, because otherwise how do they get so many flashes? So so they get it, they see it, and they are able to put it down in a way that other people who get it can recognize it. But unfortunately, only if you've got it, you will know that this is it. Otherwise, you don't recognize it and you go by. That's the sad thing. How do you gain knowledge of something you don't know? That's always a tough thing. And that's why, at least in Vedanta, the amount of emphasis given on the authority of the scriptures, on the teacher, is like amazing. And it's quite shocking when you think of it, because Vedanta has developed intellect, and then have faith in the teacher, have faith in the scripture. Make up your mind which one you want me to do. If I have intellect, I will question where is faith. And if I want me to have faith, then I'm not going to question. So make up your mind. The reason for this whole faith in the teacher and belief in the scriptures, and they are everything is irrevocable and all that sort of thing, is because it's so difficult. What will make you meaning any individual, go beyond your current thought into a new thought? Sometimes it's just the faith in the teacher or the scripture or something that makes you take that leap, makes your intellect take that leap. That's all this huge thing. So it's quite tough. The whole thing is quite tough. It's quite depressing when you think about it, really. Because even those who come to Vedanta, they continue in the same. You come to Vedanta means you're already on a better level, because otherwise you won't recognize anything. So you're already on a better level. Then because you're on a better level, you recognize those things. When you recognize those things, usually we use it to pat ourselves on the back and say, oh, I was quite smart to begin with. And then we stay there. We don't go to the next thing. It's not easy. It's all a very difficult process, really. That's why so few people undertake it.
Ma'am, you said we know knowledge in terms of knower and known relationships. This is some statement.
Yeah. We only
Can you elaborate that?
Okay. So here's a book. Do you see this book? Here is a book. Now I know this book. Means what? There is an I, there is a book, and there is a relationship between me and this book, which is knowledge. I know the book. Right? Now, in the case of absolute knowledge, this book is the self, I am the self. Who is going to know whom? So the knower-known relationship breaks down. That's why it's called Druk, Drushya, Viveka. When you start saying, okay, this is a book. This is I who know the book. But there is I who knows that I am knowing this book. So book is gone. So now my eyes, I know my eyes. I know my eyes can see the book. So there is an I and there is my eyes. Right? So slowly as you wind your way back, you come to who is the seer in the first place. And if you get that, you realize everything is the seer only. There is no seeing. Which unfortunately Western idealists have taken to mean that there is no book. It means there is no book. There is no this personality to see the book. There is only the self. So the breakdown of that relationship between the known and the knower, when it finally breaks down, that is ultimate truth. Don't worry, it's too much of a struggle. These are not, this is what they've told to us. We just can understand it intellectually as of now. Just understand just enough to understand that you don't understand it fully. Then we are good. Okay. All right. So that's enough confusion for one day. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Janki.
Om
Janki ji.
Hari Om,
Hari Om
Janki
Janki
ji.
ji. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
Hari Om, Hari Om.
Hari.
I will not get to this. Thank you.